Good afternoon, I'm Rob Wickens. I'm here to do a video promoting green sector jobs. As I said, Rob Wickens. I qualified as a landscape architect a long time ago. I now work as a project quantity surveyor for a civil and landscaping company. I've been asked to look at some various questions. My earliest memory of a green space, I think probably like most of us, would be playing football on the village green across the road from where I lived. I come from a small village community, and green spaces and the opening of green spaces was very important to me. As you can see from pictures my wife's taken of the garden, I now live in the suburban dream, which is Wolverhampton. Inspiration for me was, probably earliest memories, was a lady called Gertrude Jekyll. Behind me is a rose. It's actually Rosa Gertrude Jekyll, so hence the reason why I planted it, and also the fuchsias, which I rather love of, you can possibly see behind me. What do things, so that's my inspiration. There's also another architect called Edward Lutyens, who worked very closely with Gertrude Jekyll. I rather like his architecture, but suffice to say, I can't afford to live in his properties. What things do I do as part of my job? My main role is the quantity surveying side, which is basically, to the uninitiated, is getting the money into the business. So basically, I quite enjoy the role. It's a bit removed from what I trained as, but nevertheless, it's an important role, and I help to maintain business and to keep about 50 staff that I work with going and stuff like that. So that's very good. But at the end of the day, it's far removed from the initial training that I had. It just goes to show with the industry, there's plenty of opportunities available to you. My favourite things about the job is the variety of jobs we do. At the moment, the company I work for, I don't think I'm allowed to give a name, but it's HFN Landscapes. We do a variety of work from civil engineering to landscaping to planting to fencing to fabrication. The chaps that work for us are always very, very busy, doing all these different jobs. And through this COVID crisis, we've been able to keep them all working and stuff like that. Obviously respecting all the government's guidelines and social distancing, etc. I also like the people that I work with, both at my company and also the people I work with on the site. We work with a lot of landscape architects. Some of them are very, very nice people, very nice. And given that I trained as one, I find it quite encouraging that I can work with them. Experience. Now, to get to where I am now, when I left school, I initially worked at a nursery, a company called Oakover Nurseries. There I learned about all the trees and the shrubs. That enabled me then to go on from there. I learned all the Latin names, and I've got quite a breadth of experience. One day then I was drinking with my sister in Canterbury. We'd had a little bit too much Guinness, I do confess, and she said, why don't you think about becoming a landscape architect? At the time I didn't have a clue what it was, but I went to the Polytechnics, went to Leeds. They offered me a place there and then, and I took it up, and after 5 years I then trained as a landscape architect, worked for a number of companies after that. That gave me quite a breadth, and it enabled me to see how design worked and stuff like that. Apologies if I keep referring to the notes, but I'm not used to doing this sort of type of thing. On from there then, I then went to work for a firm of landscape architects, another firm, and then with the experience I had, I was able to try and glean as much information as I could early days. I then went to work for the company I work for now. Initially I went to work for them so I could get some experience in design and build and to see how a small business was working. But other life's experiences, children, doing up an old Victorian house, divorces, remarried, etc., meant that eventually I stayed there. I've been there for a long time. It is an industry that you can stay with a long time. It is an industry that you can look to move and change around with. So I very much would say it's a broad reaching. You get a lot of jobs available within the landscape sector. My advice to anyone looking into it would be get as many of the qualifications as you can. You don't need to have highbrow qualifications like degrees and MAs and graduates. You can look at a different level, but get as much breadth of experience as you can.